Hey, my friends, have you ever told a lie so small that you thought no one would notice? This is the story of Michael, a regular high school student who made one wrong choice during a final exam and found himself trapped in a web of guilt. But instead of hiding, he chose something harder. He chose the truth. And what he discovered is something we all need to hear. Truth is always bitter, but it's also the only path to real freedom. What happens when you finally speak the truth, even if it costs you everything? Michael's journey will show you. Keep watching. Michael's heart pounded so hard that it felt like his chest might burst. He stood at the edge of the small wooden stage in the school auditorium, the 3 rows of folding chairs stretching out before him, filled with expectant faces. His palms felt slick despite the chill of the spring evening. He had been called up to speak by the principal herself. Rumors had spread that something serious had happened, and everyone in the audience waited to hear what Michael would say. A single spotlight fell on him, illuminating his face, his trembling hands, his damp shirt. He swallowed hard and looked at the crowd, friends he had laughed with at lunch, classmates he barely knew, teachers whose lessons he had sometimes ignored. They all fixed their eyes on him, waiting. In that moment, Michael realized how powerful one small moment could become. He took a step forward, forced his voice out. "Good evening," he began. But even that simple phrase felt like pulling a heavy weight across his tongue. He paused, looked down at his shoes, then back up. "I need to tell the truth," his voice cracked, but he pressed on. "For weeks, I've been keeping something inside me that I know I should have told you a long time ago. I was afraid of what might happen if I said it out loud. But I've learned, sometimes too late, that the truth, no matter how hard it is to say, must come out, because truth is always bitter, but it is also the only thing that sets us free." A hush settled over the audience. Some students exchanged curious glances. Mr. Alvarez, his history teacher, leaned forward, his eyebrows raised. Michael felt tears threatening to fall. He took a deep breath. "I cheated on the final exam in Mrs. Thompson's class." The words came out in a rush, as if he had opened a dam. "I was scared I would fail. I thought I could handle it on my own. I thought I could make it right later, but I couldn't, and because of my choice, the results for everyone else in the class have been in question. I betrayed your trust. I betrayed my own principles, and I'm sorry." He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. He saw hurt and surprise, but also relief and respect in several faces. Mrs. Thompson stood at the side, arms folded, her lips pressed together, but she met his gaze, and in her eyes, Michael saw something he hadn't expected: acceptance. Michael stepped back and off the stage when the principal waved him away. The auditorium erupted into murmurs. As he walked off, some students nodded at him, showing quiet approval. A few clapped softly. He felt a cold emptiness, but also a strange warmth. He had done it. He had told the truth. 6 weeks earlier, Michael had been your typical high school junior. He walked the corridors with his friends, laughing about weekend plans. He played on the basketball team, sat in the cafeteria with the same group every day, and spent weekends playing video games or scrolling through social media. Life was comfortable, safe. He worked on homework when he felt like it, and sometimes he just pretended to work while he daydreamed. He was not the kind of student to always speak the truth. In fact, he often told small lies. A white lie to avoid a grounding, a skipped gym class excuse to get out of jogging. He had told his parents he was going to a study group, but ended up at a late-night party. He told his teachers he lost his homework, when really he'd thrown it away. He lied so often that sometimes he forgot what was true and what he'd made up. For Michael, truth was something fragile and flexible, shaped by convenience and fear. Then came the announcement. The final exam in advanced biology was worth 40% of the semester grade. Mrs. Thompson, a brilliant woman with stern eyes, laid out the rules. No phones, no notes, no talking. All tests would be handed in directly into her mailbox in the classroom. Every student agreed, signed the honor form. They all believed they would do their best. Michael's best, however, felt terrible. He had been absent for 2 labs, stayed up late, tinkering with a science project that never worked, and spent more nights playing video games than reviewing his notes. 3 days before the exam, he flicked through his textbook and his notebook. His handwriting was a scribble of half-understood terms. He panicked. He pictured his parents' disappointed faces. University applications loomed ahead. Without a strong grade, his dreams felt as flimsy as paper. Fear aided him. On the morning of the exam, he walked into the classroom, sweat damp at his hairline. The desks were arranged in neat rows. Mrs. Thompson passed out the test. The paper stared at him like an old scarecrow, full of questions about cellular respiration, genetic mutations, and lab procedures. He flipped to the back page, praying for easy multiple-choice questions. There they were, but only a few. Most questions required detailed answers. He stared, heart in his throat. Panic flooded back. He pressed his pen to the paper and wrote what he could. After about 20 minutes, he looked around. No one seemed to finish yet. He heard a cell phone buzz behind him. Then again. Mrs. Thompson frowned. "No phones," she said firmly. The student below him reached for the phone. Michael's heart raced. An idea flashed in his mind, an idea he had seen online. A cheat sheet hidden inside a handkerchief. A quick look at a neighbor's answers. It was wrong, but in that moment, he felt trapped. He tore a small piece of lined paper, scribbled notes about photosynthesis and mitosis. He folded it tightly and hid it in his sleeve. Each time he answered a question, he glanced at the paper, copying the lines he had memorized. He wrote something plausible, hoping she wouldn't check deeply. He finished the exam with his head spinning. When she collected the papers, Michael felt a strange relief. Then guilt crept in. He told himself, "It's okay. I'll volunteer in class, make up for it later." But deep inside, he knew the truth. He had broken the honor code. He had stolen an honest grade. He closed his eyes at night and saw the ghost of that torn paper floating over his desk. 2 days later, scores were posted. Michael's name was near the top. He felt a swift surge of triumph, until he remembered the secret paper hiding in his sleeve. The victory tasted sour. After that, everything changed. Michael tried to enjoy his high grade, but every time someone congratulated him, he felt a stab of shame. He avoided Mrs. Thompson in the hallway. He stopped joking with his friends about how easy the test was. He spent nights awake, haunted by what he had done. His conscience churned. One afternoon, he found the sliver of paper in his locker, damp with an old drink he'd spilled. He held it in one hand, the paper crumpled and almost illegible. And then he understood. He could not carry this lie any longer. He could not pretend that nothing had happened. The truth, like a bitter fruit, had ripened, toxic and heavy in his hands. Honesty alone could free him. He thought of his mother. She had always taught him that honesty was the best policy, that a lie might offer a short-term escape but would poison your heart in the long run. He thought of his father, who once said, "A man's word is the measure of his soul." He thought of his younger sister, who looked up to him for guidance. What example was he setting? Michael realized that the truth was a fierce companion. It would hurt him badly now, but its bite was better than the gnawing of lies that would eat him alive little by little. That evening, he wrote a note to Mrs. Thompson. "Dear Mrs. Thompson, I need to speak with you about something important. Please meet me in your classroom after school tomorrow. Sincerely, Michael." He handed it to her after class, his voice low, avoiding her gaze. She glanced at the note, folded it, and slipped it into her desk. Her expression was calm, unreadable. The next day, he stayed behind as others filed out. He sat at his desk, fingers drumming. He looked around the empty room, sunlight streaming through tall windows, dust motes dancing in the beams. The world outside continued without him. He stood and faced the desk where Mrs. Thompson sat. She regarded him silently. Michael took a breath. His hands trembled. "Mrs. Thompson, I have to tell you something." He paused, swallowed. "I cheated on the exam. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness, and I understand if you fail me. But I couldn't live with the lie any longer. The truth is always bitter, and it hurts, but I need to face the pain now, rather than carry it forever." Mrs. Thompson listened, her stern face softening. She pushed her glasses up her nose and looked at him. "Thank you for telling me," she said quietly. "That took courage. I will have to follow through with the school's rules. Report this to the principal. Review your grade. But I'm proud you chose honesty in the end." Michael felt tears spill down his cheeks. She handed him a tissue. "You'll learn more from this truth than you would from any grade you cheated to get," she continued. Word spread quickly. Some students whispered behind his back, "Did you hear? Michael confessed." Others nodded in approval if they saw him in the halls. The principal scheduled a meeting with Michael and his parents. When they arrived, Michael's father looked disappointed, his mother worried, his sister curious. Michael explained what happened, why he had confessed, how the guilt had eaten him. His parents listened quietly, their faces a mixture of concern and relief that he had chosen to speak up. The principal reviewed the honor code. "I'm disappointed, but I admire your honesty," she said. "You will receive a grade of 0 on that exam. You must complete an extra credit project to earn partial credit for the course. Is that acceptable?" Michael nodded. Though a 0 felt devastating, at least he had his integrity. His parents decided not to punish him further. His mother hugged him and whispered, "I'm so proud of you for telling the truth." His father gave him a firm handshake and said, "It's not the mistake that defines you, it's how you face it." His sister beamed. Michael realized that the truth, bitter as it was, brought him closer to the people he loved. Over the next weeks, Michael poured himself into the extra credit project, a research paper on ethical dilemmas in science. He spent hours in the library, under the warm lamps, reading books and articles, writing with care. With each sentence, he felt himself healing. He learned about the famous scientists who risked their careers to publish findings honestly, about the scandals that destroyed institutions, about the weight of lies that tipped whole societies into distrust. He realized that truth was not just a personal matter. It was the bedrock of every community. He submitted the paper on time. Mrs. Thompson returned it with thorough comments and a grade that reflected his earnest effort. He earned back enough points to bring his semester grade to a respectable B. Not an A like before, but a grade he knew he truly earned. More importantly, He had something he had never felt before: self-respect. Spring turned to summer. Michael's confession became a story others told when they discussed honor and courage. He spoke about it in his church youth group, at family gatherings, and with anyone who would listen. He became known not as the boy who cheated, but as the boy who owned up to his mistake. He realized that truth, even when bitter, can grow sweeter with time. The pain of admitting a failure fades, and what remains is a stronger self, a clearer conscience. One evening, his youth group leader asked him to speak about his experience at the next meeting. Michael agreed, nervous but determined. On the night he spoke, the small room was filled with teens fidgeting in folding chairs. He told his story, starting with the fear that led him to cheat, the guilt that drove him to confess, the fallout that followed, and the hope that rose afterward. He spoke simply, honestly, his words steady. He could feel empathy in the room. When he finished, there was silence, then applause. Some teens came up to him, eyes shining, to say, "Thank you for telling us." He realized he was not alone in his struggles, and that truth could bring a community together. Over the years, Michael carried the lesson with him. He entered college, majored in biology, and worked in a research lab. He remembered his past mistake whenever he felt tempted to cut corners. He knew the sweet relief of honest work and the bitter taste of lies. He became known among his peers for his dependability and his integrity. He completed his degree with honors, not because he was the smartest, but because he was dedicated and truthful. When he graduated, he gave a speech at the commencement ceremony. He stood at the podium, graduation gown swaying around him, the summer sun bright on the campus lawn. He looked at the crowd of new graduates, friends and families. He thought of his own confession, that painful night on the stage in high school. Then he spoke. "I made a mistake when I was younger. I cheated on a test. It seemed small at the time, but it haunted me. It taught me the hardest lesson I ever learned. Truth is always bitter. But it also taught me something more, that honesty, though painful at first, is the key to a life of purpose and peace. When you choose truth, you choose to grow, to heal, to connect. You choose a path that may hurt you now, but will guide you to who you want to be. Be brave. Be true. Truth may taste bitter at first, but it grows sweeter in the heart that embraces it." He lowered his gaze at the sea of faces. A breeze rustled the banners overhead. He felt a deep calm. He had told his truth again, and once more it had set him free. Michael's story reminds us that no matter how small or big, every lie has its price. The bitterness of truth is real. It stings. It hurts. It can leave a wound. But if we speak truth, we find a strength within ourselves that no lie can ever give. The road of honesty is not easy, but it leads to trust, respect, and the kind of freedom that lasts a lifetime. And sometimes, the bitter truth we speak today plants the seeds of hope and courage for tomorrow.